What's going on, boxing fans? Julian Williams with The Distance. I'm back with my number 4, my top 5 series for this week, for my welterweights, and I'm gonna give you number 4. My number 4 is Thomas the Hitman Hearns. What more can I say about Tommy Hearns? Tall, slender, welterweight. He's about 6'1", has 78-inch reach. Which is pretty much an advantage against all of his opponents. In history, a lot of the welterweights, were much shorter than Tommy Hearns. Tommy Hearns gives trouble to pretty much every single welterweight in history. Everybody, because he was as tall and as long as a heavyweight. He was just as tall as Evander Holyfield. Had the same reach as an Evander Holyfield. So, that's something that stands out. The fact that he was a tall welterweight, and he was and other than that, he had so much power in his right hand that he just put a lot of people to sleep with that right hand. Not only could he knock you out, but he could box as well. He could stay on the outside all night and just throw his left jab. His left jab was a lot of trouble for his opponents. Because when he could fire it off and he could actually knock you out with that left jab, because his left jab was his weapon, pretty much because his left jab, like I said in another video, set up his right hand and it knocked out a lot of his opponents. But Tommy Hearns from Detroit, Michigan, started out in the Kronk Gym. Was trained by Emmanuel Stewart for a lot of his earlier career. He's actually still fighting now, from what I know, every now and again, not like on a part-time basis. But his career started in 1977, and and a lot of his earlier fights didn't even go past the 5th round. Like I believe 19 out of his first 20 fights were pretty much knockout wins. 19 out of the first 20. And then he had one fight, I think it was like his 16th, that went the distance. It was the first fight that went the distance. And, and it wasn't until like 1980, 3 years after his career started, when he was about 23 years old, when he fought my number 5, Jose Pepino Cuevas. Cuevas was known as a big knockout puncher, as I said in yesterday's video. Cuevas was knocking out everybody as well. And, during his whole championship reign from 1976 to 1980. And Thomas Hearns, was knocking out everybody as well. So this brought a lot of intrigue to the fight, but all eyes were on Tommy Hearns. All eyes were on Tommy Hearns due to the fact that, hey, he's knocking out everybody too. He's knocking out all of his opponents. And a lot of his opponents weren't going past the 2nd or 3rd round. If you look at, just look at his resume, a lot of his earliest fights did not go past, 12. I take that back. Did not even go past 2 or 3. A lot of his earlier fights didn't really go that long. And Thomas Hearns went into the ring and knocked out Cuevas in like the 2nd round. Let me see here. I believe it was the 2nd round when he knocked him out. It was, yep, the 2nd round, technical knockout. But anyway, Thomas Hearns, had some really good victories as a welterweight. He fought Cuevas, fought Angel Espada, and had the legendary bout with Sugar Ray Leonard. That he lost, but it was still a legendary bout. Sugar Ray Leonard had no answer to that jab. The jab was just there all night. And towards the end of the fight, I guess Hearns got tired, and Leonard overwhelmed him with shots, and that's pretty much his last bout as the welterweight championship. As a welterweight champion, he held the title for like a year or two, but he was knocking out. I believe every defense he had, even though he didn't have as many defenses as Cuevas, he was knocking out everybody during his defenses except for Sugar Ray Leonard. And Tommy Hearns, you have to consider him, in your top welterweight list, just because he was a stylistic nightmare. A lot of people talk about Paul Williams. It's like 6'2", 6'3", has the 81-inch reach. Hearns, is 6'1", has 78-inch reach. But along with the 78-inch reach, he had power and he can knock out anybody. But anyway, that was my number 4 welterweight this week, Tommy Hearns. And anyway, thanks for watching. I'll be back with number 3 tomorrow. Peace.